Neeraj, Jain. Hey, Sanjeev.
And we're doing episode 6 today, and we got some really interesting stuff to talk about today. So I'll let you get
Okay, so I have to talk about Trudeau and him embarrassing himself and Canada again by inviting a Nazi to the parliament. So I don't know if you heard about this.
No, I don't know too much about it. I saw a couple.
Yeah, so they had an event where Zelensky from Ukraine was present.
Right.
And they honored this war veteran, Ukrainian war veteran, who turned out to be a guy who fought with the Nazis. And it's embarrassing even for Zelensky. Now, there's a picture of Zelensky applauding this guy, and the Russian media are totally exploiting this.
Right.
And I just want to bring it up, like, how many times is this guy going to embarrass us? Like, what is going on with him and his office that this just seems to be a constant string of blunders?
I think it kind of speaks to the organization of his office. I mean, ultimately, how much really falls on the actual prime minister to making these type of decisions?
Agreed, but it's his office. It's the responsibility to manage his office.
To vet these issues. Yeah, it just tells you that he's not experienced or doesn't have a good team around him. I think he should be firing everybody around him.
I think we should be firing him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit more partial to Trudeau, but he definitely is making these blunders. I don't know if you saw that the actor Rob Schneider came and said he's not going to be visiting Canada because, he's a famous comedian actor. He said, I'm not, because of this Ukrainian thing. Because he was so upset. He said, I'm not going to come visit Canada anymore. I'm just saying, it doesn't give us a bad name. Like, these are blunders that, it shouldn't happen. I don't think they're done on purpose. Obviously not done on purpose.
Right. But it doesn't raise our prestige in the world, right? I mean, as Canadians now, before I used to be really proud to wear that Canadian flag on my backpack. But
yeah, I know, we get special treatment where we went with that flag.
Now people are going to make fun of us for harboring terrorists and saluting Nazi criminals.
Well, this is what happens when you pick a fight with, you're picking a fight with India, for example, which now has so much global clout, and you can see they're doing all types of things. I know you had kind of heard about some stuff they were doing.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I don't know. We were talking about the fake news that India is putting out.
Yeah,
where they're, on Indian broadcasts, they're showing these violent protests happening in Canada. They're basically portraying Canada as an unsafe place for Indians to visit.
Right.
They've actually put it a travel advisory out.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I'm going to just play a little clip that I think you'll find interesting. This is from a major newspaper in India, and this has come out and become a big issue. So let me just play that for you guys. If everyone can see that, here, I'll just read it for you. During the Canadian PM Justin Trudeau's visit to India for the G20 summit this month, his plane was full of cocaine, if you can believe it. Full of cocaine. He also missed the president's dinner, as some people say that he was not in his senses due to the drug consumption. Seeing this, nothing can be said about what goes on in his mind. This is Deepak Vora, former Indian ambassador to Sudan. So this is the type of stuff that's going around, and it's become very difficult to refute.
Right.
When you have this type of stuff on a major newspaper.
This is straight out of the propaganda playbook, right?
Right.
You don't have to prove any of this.
No.
You're just creating these.
What's his name? Steve Bannon says is that throw as much shit as you can against the wall.
Yeah.
And hope something sticks. In effect.
Well, and there's another thing. It's easier to create bullshit than to refute bullshit.
Exactly.
And that's Trump's playbook too.
Yeah, it's Trump's playbook, and I think this is. He doesn't understand this is the type of stuff that can happen, and it probably will affect his re-election. If this stuff starts happening, it's going to impact his popularity here in Canada.
I don't have a problem with the Liberal Party generally, but I do have a problem with Trudeau. Since the day he's come on the scene, he doesn't present himself as a capable, confident person. He seems like a little boy, a little bit lost in the woods.
He's no Brian Mulroney or John Chrétien, but I wasn't a big fan of Stephen Harper. But
yeah. He had some problems too. He's not charismatic at all in some of his policy decisions. But at least the guy seemed confident.
Yeah.
Right? You weren't having these kinds of issues. I don't know. Did someone get fired in the PMO after this recent
Ukrainian thing? Yeah. Let's see. Let's see what happens now. It looks like all these Indian broadcasters are spreading all types of hateful news against Trudeau and Canada, and then we're seeing these fake news items coming out. So I think it's going to be quite interesting over the next couple of weeks, seeing what's happening.
We're in an interesting world now, right? Where there's no such thing as reality. It's so easy to create fake news and
post-truth world.
Yeah.
speaking about AI, because I think that's, you could see AI is going to be changing. I think they say AI is going to change the next election, 2024 U.S. election dramatically, because it can create any type of image, video and all that. And it'll be very difficult for people to understand what is real, what is not real. So there was a study that just came out that looked at comparing the kind of thing against AI has been that there's no creativity there. Like that's what sets us apart as humans, is that, you know, we're the last bastion of creativity, and AI is just like following orders or kind of stupid. But they basically did a study and looked at 3 different AI models. I think GPT-4, GPT-3, something based on GPT-3 and one other. And they asked that AI to come up, and humans, to come up with as many uses for rope, box, pencil, and candle within 30 seconds. And you'd be surprised about what the results are. What do you think?
Oh, AI will win no matter what, for sure, 100%.
Okay, I was surprised. You're right. But what ended up happening was, yes, AI did win on the total number of creative uses. Again, creative uses of these objects. So they had, but still, humans tended to perform a little better on just the very, very things outside the box. So like things that were completely out of left fields.
Okay.
Humans did a little better on those, but in general, yes, AI had better number of creative uses.
So okay, a few comments on that. One is that's a pretty common, creativity test.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if the AI had that trained in its model somewhere.
Yeah, could be.
And the second thing is, what are we really that creative? I mean, maybe 0.1% of us are at sometimes very creative in certain fields.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, a lot of our creativity just involves combining 2 different ideas, right? I don't know why I'm thinking of this right now, but like putting wheels on a suitcase.
Yeah.
Right? It was very creative.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, still took us a long time to figure that one out. But just putting 2 ideas together. And I don't see why AI is not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, because if we can understand how people think, which is, these large language models are in effect taking all that data and then doing a training data and predicting what is the next word or whatever. I think you're right. That's probably how our brains think too, is that we're able to now basically take all our experience and then be able to predict what is the next thought to have.
I often wonder, the more I learn about how these things work, like I bet you our brains are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but this thing can compute, I don't know, what is it, 1 trillion times faster than our brains? Maybe not that, but
yeah,
a lot faster.
Yeah, let's see. I think this is quite interesting.
So in terms, if we can move on a little bit.
Yes.
So Elon Musk has been warning us about the dangers of AI for a long time. And he feels the only defense against it is to join it. And so he has this company called Neuralink.
Yes, I heard one of his major ventures.
Another one of those moonshot companies. So Neuralink is basically designed to create a brain-to-computer interface, right? And so a few news items out of them recently. One is they've been doing testing on monkeys, and a lot of these monkeys have died.
Poor monkeys. Yeah, no.
Yeah, and apparently in pretty unpleasant ways. So a few things like that. One is, on X, on Twitter, right? He posted that they all died of natural causes and and now it's come out that that's not true. That they actually died from this testing.
Yeah.
So he's in trouble with the SEC.
Yes.
But he's also in trouble with animal rights activists.
Yeah.
But still, he's gotten to go ahead to start human testing, which is quite amazing, I think. But again, if it works, it's going to be incredible. So they're going to do testing on people that are fully paralyzed, and see if they can tap into their brain and then, create like robotic arms or limbs that they can then control.
Yeah, I mean, I just generally would like to avoid as much animal testing as we could, where possible. Now the question is that could he have avoided using those monkeys or not? That's the question to me.
I don't know.
Because the models probably aren't as good out there. Like if they can run computer simulation models, but nothing can beat actual biology, like an actual...
Well, because you've got that interface now, right? Then how is it interfacing into the monkey's brain? I don't know. Maybe they could have... Well, actually, let me ask you, does it matter whether it's a monkey or a dog or a pig or a rabbit?
Yeah. I think it matters somewhat. I mean, at the smaller the life form, like a mouse, I think it's different than, let's say, a dog. But I don't think there's that much difference once we go above dog and pig and cow and like the next level primate. for sure is at a higher level. But I think some of those other life forms, are suffering, have pain, make decisions, planning. I think they have some of those things. So I'm really concerned about we're using animal testing for things that could be avoided, like let's say cosmetics, for example.
So I mean, I agree with you. I feel that it's morally, I'm going to say, wrong to make another being suffer, or we should at least minimize the amount of suffering that we cause. I mean, we're going to cause suffering just by walking around, but we should try to minimize that. But then, how would you, animal testing? I know a lot of people are against animal testing, but people are generally okay with eating animals. And we're talking about, you're telling me about.
Yeah, I was just reading an amazing article. It was in the Atlantic, and they were talking about this, basically one of these direct action animal rights groups, and what they're much more militant. The way that they have been trying to convince people about the harm of factory farming has been to actually go and get investigators into those plants.
Did you know it's actually illegal to film inside?
Yeah, so they have to do this under the guise of nighttime, and they can,
But isn't that
they could be jailed? I mean,
isn't that alone amazing that these companies that produce animals have made it illegal? The government said you cannot film what's happening inside. We don't want the public to know.
Yeah, so I think, and that's what I'm saying. I like the fact that they're doing this, and they have uncovered all types of abuses happening within these factories where people are not living up to the standards that even have been put for animal welfare. Like, for example, animals being burned alive or living within filthy conditions, half their guts pouring out, and various other things too ugly to describe here. But the problem is, I wonder, is that why hasn't it moved the needle? Like, why are you said, it hasn't moved the needle.
It's a good question. Like, you don't see people wearing fur coats, really. Like, PETA did a pretty good job in getting people to stop wearing fur coats. I think even animal testing is, at least in cosmetic industry, is down pretty dramatically.
Yeah.
But yeah, why?
We haven't been able to move the whole piece about vegetarianism or veganism, even though they've been working on this for 30 years. Like, the whole animal rights PETA thing has been going on for at least 30, 40 years. But there's been very little movement, and I seem to think what they think is that generally you need about 3.5% of the population to agree on something and be taking action before you see a societal change. Like, that's what happened with women's rights and civil rights and all that, rights and all that. We don't have that.
So it's 3.5% that are actively involved. I would imagine the vegetarian population's got to be pretty close to that.
But there are lots of those people who are not that active. They're not active. They're just like, yes, that's a good idea, but they're not willing to protest about it or take action about it. Just, willing to, they're more passively, yes, I'll do that, but they're not willing to say anything about it. And I think it kind of speaks to how we spoke on a previous episode about what do non-vegan, what do omnivores and meat eaters think about the whole vegan movement? Right. Because it doesn't necessarily make them feel great. Yeah. So they're not willing to come over to support this movement.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, so, I mean, I tend not to talk a lot about this because a lot of my friends eat meat and it does get uncomfortable. But in general, I think it would be a lot more honest if people killed their own meat, right? Or at least, I feel that, the whole factory farming, the way it's done, it's packaged in such a, everything's done, hidden away.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're going to eat the meat, you should be able to look at the process and accept it. And if you can't accept it, you should demand change.
Yeah. I've always said that as well, is that, if that's why I don't have anything, hunters and those up north who are out there, killing the animal themselves and then cooking it and eating it. That's totally fine. But if you're totally divorced from how that meat arrived at that, that grocery store, and you think you don't understand that it was a live thing, then I think that's a problem. And I think, fortunately, a lot of young people have never been out in the, in the farm, or have they been out to see what do animals actually look like? They've probably never seen it. If they live in the city their whole life, they've never seen it.
Right.
They've just known their pet. Right. And they probably haven't kept those two things together. They haven't made that connection that this pet is similar to an animal if they're eating.
And I do feel like, if you can make that connection and you can honestly be comfortable with the whole process, it's fine.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why I respect the halal and the kosher, way of doing things, because in effect they're doing a little prayer when they are taking the animal's life.
Right.
It's also meant to be in a painless way by basically bleeding out the animal.
Well, I think that's debatable.
Is it okay?
I don't know a lot about that, but
It's meant to be.
It's meant to be, yeah.
It's meant to be, and also doing a little prayer. So
I like the prayer part.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, I think a lot of native traditions also have something like that, right? When they kill an animal, there's some gratitude or something.
Yeah. Well, who am I to judge? But I think this is an interesting question about where will we be in 50 years from now? And it looks to me that how we treat animals will be one of those things we'll be looking at. Oh my God, how did we allow this to happen? But the problem is that affecting social change, it's not as simple as what you think. Like it might be, we're going to have to probably make incremental steps, and probably things like lab-grown meat and things will have to come to make it so easy for people to make that switch over, because they're not. On its own, the way it is right now, it's not enough for people to make that change.
A lot needs to change. So actually, this is just thought of something. So a while ago, I came across the concept of effective altruism. I won't get into the whole thing, but basically I was trying to figure out, according to my beliefs, where could I donate money that would have the maximum impact for the things that I believe in? Right. So some of the things that I believe in are health, the environment, and reduction of suffering. And I realized that actually promoting vegetarianism accomplished all three. Right? Because and I think it's just something, just something for people to think about, is that the environmental impact, the health impact of eating too much meat, and as well there is a lot of suffering involved in that.
I think it's like hitting all three. I don't want to say hitting all three births. Not good enough metaphor here, but
it's a perfect metaphor.
But it does make sense that we might put our money where our mouth is. Yeah, exactly. We had talked about, we wanted to, I guess, move on just to talk about unions, because our politics update for this week is that Biden came out in, I think, Michigan, and was on the side of the UAW, which is currently striking.
Right.
And in his speech, he was, pretty much saying, look, you guys deserve a better wage, and I'm fully behind you. Sure, some of it is, again, making sure he can shore up that the working class base that they need to.
But that's okay. Trump. I mean, that's part of democracy.
But I have to say, I would like, what are your thoughts on unions? I know you're kind of more of a union buster type guy.
I'm not, okay. Yeah. I find, I do have some opinions on unions. So the teachers' union is one, even though my wife was a teacher. But it really bothers me because you can never. When I ran my company, one of the things that was very important to me was to always have the best people, right? And we were pretty ruthless. Like if you weren't a good fit for that job in our company, we would replace you. You can't do that in schools, right? You've got these teachers there. They know they can't get fired. They're really half-assing it. And that's not what our kids deserve. Our kids deserve
not a meritocracy.
No, not at all. And it's not like there's a massive demand of people that want to go into the profession, but they can't get in because these teachers are kind of holding up that spot. So I have issues with unions for things like that, as well as, we were talking about United Auto Workers. Like, what was it, 2008, when all these companies basically folded, right? Like GM, Ford.
And they got bailed out.
But part of the reason they folded is because they had been so profitable that they kept giving concessions to their employees, and it became so bloated. Like, you had people that had retired, at 50, still getting their pensions, still getting full benefits. And now, I'm not against sharing in the gains that a company makes, but I think when it becomes ingrained, right, as an entitlement, you can't take it away. And so when the company, if the business climate changes, you can't suddenly say, okay, well, now we're going to reduce your wage by 20% and take away these benefits because we can't afford it. Instead, the company ends up going under. And so, I don't know. I think maybe a better way would be to negotiate, okay, we're going to have a profit-sharing plan.
I was about to say, why can't it make them shareholders?
Can make them sure. Yeah, sure. And a lot of companies try to do that. They encourage employee stock ownership. So on the one hand, I agree. I think that, and we were talking about this earlier too, that if you look at the base level employee, his salary versus the CEO's salary, it used to be a multiple of like 10 or 15. Now, I think what is the multiple, like 200?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That the gap between the CEO and the worker on the line is huge now. So it becomes very difficult for people to justify that gap for these fat cats in effect, who are making huge amounts of money, and the company is raking in hundreds of billions of dollars in profit. So I think that they should consider giving a bit more money in this situation. It's only going to help the economy further because these people spend the money that they're given. It's going to help. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're going to buy more cars, like you said, Henry Ford.
That's how he started, right? When he was making a lot of money, he made sure to pay his employees well enough that they could afford to buy a car.
Yeah.
So, I do feel that there are some places where unions are useful, but I generally feel that they tend to outlive their usefulness and eventually become destructive. Right? And so in this case, though, I mean, I do feel something has to happen. The gap between the CEO and the base worker is too much. But I just think it needs to be done in a way doesn't become an entitlement that later destroys the company.
And probably the CEO is getting paid these big bonuses on how well they fight the unions out.
Yeah.
In effect.
Yeah.
Right? And all it takes, and if you have a Supreme Court that's kind of right-leaning right now, all it takes is, someone to bring a case to the Supreme Court to just kind of decrease the power of these unions, which, they might do as well. I think that's very possible.
Personally, I actually think it would make good business sense to do a profit-sharing plan. You get everyone involved and, hey, let's make this more competitive.
Yeah.
Whereas, generally unions are fighting for things where the employees have less skin in the game, right? Where they're just protected.
Right.
And I don't think that's fair. That's my issue with unions.
Well, let's see what happens. I don't know what type of deal they're going to get and how much of a raise they're going to get. But let's see what happens.
Another, it's a side note, but apparently the Las Vegas hospitality workers are threatening to go on strike, which may just derail an upcoming trip.
Yeah, this is crazy. So all of those people are together? I mean, that's going to cost a lot of money if all these hospitality workers...
Yeah, I think that it's something like 40,000 hospitality workers. They're in negotiations and they could strike. So, we haven't actually touched on the potential shutdown of the U.S. government.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's, I mean, I think, personally, I think this is just, nothing's going to happen. I think they're going to always find a way to make this thing go, or maybe it'll be shut down for a few days. But you basically have, the House Republicans who are just threatening to just burn the House down, in effect.
Yeah. But last time, Trump shut it down for 5 weeks.
Yeah. It's very possible, yeah. That could happen.
There's going to be a massive impact. That could really hurt the economy.
Yeah, that's right. Because all the government workers aren't getting paid. I think all the military people aren't getting paid.
Yeah,
veterans. It's a huge issue. But I think when you have about 5 people in the House, 5 Republicans are willing to show how government is dysfunctional. They want government to be dysfunctional.
Right.
They want it to be shut down. And so they can get more media status and they can show that they're powerful. I think
it's a curious political tactic. I wonder how if I was going to lose pay, I don't know if I'd vote for those guys again. But maybe they would. Maybe that's it.
Maybe they think a lot of people think government's crap and they want to see it go down. We live in a kind of somewhat pre-anarchy type of society. People wanting revolution.
Yeah, that's got to always be. I'm sure there's always a subset of people that want that.
Yeah, that's true. We wanted to talk about, I know last time we didn't get a chance to talk. Oh, we want to chat a little bit about Ozempic.
Yes.
I know.
Okay, so you're a doctor, so I wanted to ask you, and I keep hearing about Ozempic.
Semaglutide is the trade name, by the way.
Yeah, there's shortages. I heard there's now a gray market, somehow people are buying stuff out of China. What's going on with this?
Yeah, Ozempic's been one of those game changer medications. I wish it bought us shares in the company.
Yeah.
It made a lot of money. But it's made weight loss accessible and doable without a lot of effort. If you can afford the drug,
that's the magic pill everyone wanted.
Yeah, it's an injection once a week. It's so simple, and it actually doesn't have any downside really. And, if anything, it might even improve your metabolism, improve your sugar control. So that's so many positives, and it's made weight loss so successful and easy and accessible. The concern has been now that if you don't have a good body and be at the right weight, then there must be something wrong with you. right? Like this, like we've been pushing body positivity everywhere in the
right,
media.
yeah.
Like, you know what? It's okay to be overweight. It's okay. Let's not not discriminate.
I have a little bit of an issue with that too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That we, you know, the woke, if you want to call it woke, political correct thing is that we should not be telling people who are overweight that it's unhealthy. Everything is healthy. Everything's good. You know, don't be trying to aspire to like a healthier weight.
So what you're saying is now Ozempic, because it makes weight loss easy, because before I think we had a lot of reasons, and I know weight loss is difficult. I mean, it's not just willpower, right? It's chemicals in our food. It's all kinds of
hormones that are telling you to eat. You know, some people definitely have different things, different hormones, other conditions that may be making it more difficult. But Ozempic has made now all of a sudden weight loss possible for a lot more people than was possible before.
So now it's not just willpower. It's why don't you just take the drug?
Take the drug. And, you know, and if you're not taking the drug, and if you're not at that weight, there must be something wrong. There must be something wrong with the person who is not doing those things because everyone else is doing it. So I think that's the kind of interesting thing about this, is that there's really no excuse, if you want to call it, for someone to be overweight.
It was just to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
So isn't that a good thing? Like, because if the drug, it really doesn't have too many negative effects, and it will help you become healthier, forget about how you look, but if it actually makes you healthier, then shouldn't there be some pressure to do that?
Yeah, I think that we could debate how did this happen in the first place? Like, is there better ways to address this obesity crisis in North America? That could be, you know, about improving exercise or improving people's diets in general. That would be better.
Yeah.
But if we already have this problem, then yes, we should be moving the population to, you know, a healthier weight, because it's going to reduce diabetes and heart disease and so on. But
it's kind of like an arms race, isn't it? You've got all the food people trying to engineer the food to make it like super
tasty and saturated fat and high salt.
You know, I ate a few chips yesterday.
Yeah.
I had to go back for the bag. Like, it's so addictive. Anyway.
Well, and the interesting thing about that is that they've made those foods which are super unhealthy the cheapest.
Right.
And if you want anything healthy,
it's more expensive.
You're paying a major premium. So basically pricing out the person who has, you know, some money issues.
Right.
That they have to buy unhealthy food, which is then causing the obesity, which they can't afford to necessarily treat.
Right.
So this is...
So now, actually, so does that mean that now if you're a little bit overweight, it's kind of a signal that you're poor?
In fact, yeah, that's a really good point. That's a very good point, because you don't have the means.
Well, it's the opposite of what it used to be like in India.
Yeah. Normally, Set, which means big man, was the big guy, powerful guy. And that's why, you know, my dad's always like, you know, it's good to put on some weight. Healthy. His word was healthy, because that meant you came from a well-off family and you had enough food on the table.
So now it's going to be almost the reverse.
Yeah, I think that generally now, you know, people who are healthier tend to be of higher socioeconomic status. They can afford
it.
Those, you know, activities and, you know, the gym membership, and they can afford, you know, to go golfing once a week, things like that.
Right, yeah.
The person who's working 12 hours a day at the restaurant can't do.
Okay, so now even though because I've also heard there's shortages, so even if people want to take the drug, you can't get it.
Well, yeah, you know, the companies find the drug is flying off the shelves at pharmacies, and so they have had to limit it to prescribe, at least in Canada, for those people who actually have diabetes, because it actually was a diabetes medication, and so yeah, they've really limited until doctors don't prescribe it unless they meet the criteria, and especially if you have insurance and paying for it, you are not allowed to be getting it on insurance unless you have diabetes.
What if you're pre-diabetic? Like,
no, you need to have diabetes, meet certain criteria.
Wow.
And so on. And even if you want to pay for it, there's shortages. So I know right now the 1 milligram pen, which is, you know, the bigger pen, is not available back ordered till October 15. There's a lot of people now are just looking.
And what about this gray market? There's stuff coming out of China, I heard.
No, there's there is you know, Ozempic that's available gray market now that people can go to, and they want to continue on.
What is it? A gray market is basically they're just duplicating the formula unlicensed.
Yeah, exactly. They're just making it in the factory and just selling it. That's
just a dumb question, but maybe, and you probably don't know the. But if they can do it, why can't the actual company do it?
Oh, yeah.
Why can't they scale up their production? Anyway, maybe they're enjoying this. I don't know.
Yeah, they got to keep some scarcity there. Like if they just got to keep some price, but they probably caught them off guard. like if they're a few weeks behind, they have like a sole supply chain, and maybe for whatever reason, some part is behind schedule or something.
Right. I guess, and the quality control systems, whereas this gray market stuff.
Gray market is just in a vial, take it for insulin syringe, whereas, the Ozempic pen is nice little pen. It's got a whole ease of convenience. It's got to reach distributor. It's got a whole supply chain to it.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah. Last time we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but you have an article, you have a blog on Medium, and you had put an article up about your conversations at dinner parties and what.
Well, yeah. So
your thoughts on that?
What happened was I went to this party, garden party, and I had a good time. Enjoyed my conversations. But when I was leaving, I recognized that I had done all the questioning, or the, like all the conversations were basically being led by the questions I was asking, and the only questions I got was like, "Hey man, what's new?" Which, fine. It's a very lazy question, but and we all do it, but nobody really. And there's a lot of these people I was meeting for the first time, and nobody was actually inquiring about me and my background, or and I thought that was really interesting, how few people asked questions, and maybe I've monopolized it because I met this guy who worked in the movie industry, this guy was a chiropractor who got into land development, so I'm just naturally curious, and I asked a lot of questions, so it's possible that maybe I didn't give them a chance to ask. But I did wonder, is social media kind of encouraging our egotism and our self-centeredness and this desire to only talk about ourselves and post about ourselves all the time, that we're not as interested in finding out about others? I don't know. So that was the article.
Yeah. When you first mentioned to me, I thought, okay, maybe the context was off. Like maybe, this wasn't a party where people wanted to talk about work, or maybe they wanted to they were half drunk or whatever. And this was like, they weren't ready for that type of conversation. But I didn't get that sense from what you were saying. No.
This was, no one was really, people were drinking, but nothing significant. And it was it was mixed ages. It was a family thing.
So it could have, yeah. I came across something after that about that people the art of like knowing how to engage in conversation, or, is being lost because people don't understand the value of asking questions. And, for example, when we sometimes avoid asking questions because we don't want to look stupid, or we don't want to, but apparently the people who hear these questions, if somebody asks you a question, you actually think higher of them. You actually, you find them more interesting. You think they're smarter.
Right.
So the study looked at. So
that's why everyone thinks I'm so smart.
Exactly. Knowing to ask the right question, and make it, and be sincere and genuine about it, I think is a skill. And maybe these people, you're right, they're not used to, because we're not training people on how to do that. Because I think of just lack of social engagement. I'm not sure how much is social media, but maybe about the egotism part. But I think it's just lack of being able to know what to say.
Right.
Yeah. Instead of just, how are you? And go one step further. Like, how are you is so broad and open-ended.
Yeah.
It just ends with, I'm okay.
Right. Yeah. What else do you say to that? So actually, what I try to do now when someone says, like in that kind of scenario, if I want to have a conversation, I'll actually say something like, how are you, or what's up? I'll think of some random thing that's going on in my life just to give a hook to start a conversation. Because if someone says, how are you? And I'm like, fine, that's it. Like, we're just going to look at each other now.
Okay, next. Yeah.
But this is the kind of thing they should teach in school, is actually how to have a conversation with someone.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been telling my kids all the time, but yeah, it's hard for me to exactly know. I mean, I did when I was in Japan. I noticed everybody's on their phone, but even here, like we can go to a concert, and we can see everybody's on their phone taking video of the actual of the event rather than actually enjoying the event.
Right.
So
yeah, we see that all the time now.
So yeah, definitely something to think about. We could chat about another episode. I'd like to bring up some of those things he's talked about, what we call magic words, like how to basically communicate an idea. Well, how do you do that? So we could talk about that next time.
That sounds good.
I think we might be done for today. I hope that was interesting for everyone.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, we might have a special guest next week. All right. Take care. Bye.